Let me just recap with
Adair. What about Dad?
Okay. All right.
What a
Jen.
What about Dad?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Supercorp Sunday, a safe space where we converge weekly to talk all things Supergirl. My name's Jen, and tonight I will be discussing Season 4, Episode 2, Fallout. But before we continue, I must address the elephant in the room. I am a queen down tonight, writing solo. Adair, my co-host, will not be partaking in the cast. She has a really great reason for not being here tonight. Adair is reached the final callbacks for Circus Day Soleil show, and she's got a big audition this Thursday. So I'd really appreciate it if everybody who's tuning in, everyone who's been a part of this community, if you would all just send her some good juju, some wishful thinking from some spirit fingers, that would be much appreciated. That'd go a long way. So before I dive deep into analysis for this week's episode, I want to talk about an article I came across. It was published by Meg Downey in GameSpot.com. It's titled Lex Luthor's Imminent Arrival Looms Large in Supergirl. Now, I thought this was a fascinating read because the article talked about the fact that they have or already have casted Lex Luthor to come to Supergirl Season 4. And it's always good to reference kind of like a comic book site so you can have a heads up of where they might go with this character being on the show. In the past, the actress Katie McGrath spoke about how as Lena Luthor, she always liked being the only Luthor on the show, and that Lex's presence is so large, he's almost like this character that has always existed, just off to the camera, and it plays such a huge role in her image and the way all the characters interact with her. So what I thought was unique about this article was the way it kind of talked about the Mercy Graves connection to Lex Luthor. So apparently, in the comics, Mercy Graves is Lex Luthor's personal secretary and bodyguard. She's a cybernetically, I hope I'm saying that right, enhanced Amazon who has the ruthless cunning of her boss, with added superhuman strength and invulnerability, making her quite the force to be reckoned with. Now, I'm reading this from the article, just want to say that on the cast. So we see a little bit of that in this week's episode when we got this wonderful fight scene between Mercy and Lena. And you can see exactly how Mercy can go toe-to-toe with Lena. But one of the big parts about Mercy Grave in her specific storyline in the comic books is that she is something of a campaign manager or somebody who manages Lex Luthor's campaign in a comics in one of the I think it's in the Superman world. There is a storyline where Lex Luthor becomes the president of the United States. And I think that this article did a really great job of pulling this information up, because this might be a huge indication as to how Lex Luthor would enter the world and be somebody who is a existential threat to the world on such a scale that, I guess, on a Lutheran scale, you know, where you see this character coming into the world and being the ultimate big bad of the world. That's what he needs to be. I absolutely think Mercy Graves right now is communicating with Lex Luthor on some level. I don't think she was fired from Alcorp. And the more I've seen of this Mercy Graves, the more I've started to believe that this is going into predictions. I was going to save it for last, but you know, we're starting off hot tonight. I think that Lex Luthor is sort of the puppet master of the season, pulling strings. And I think that he is absolutely colluding with Mercy Graves. So that is a prediction, but that is one based off this really great article. So if you want to read it or see what I was reading, it was at gamespot.com, published by Meg Downey. Just this interesting storyline that Lex Luthor becomes the president of the United States in the Superman storyline. So perhaps that is what we will see moving forward with this storyline. So that's the article of the week. I just kind of wanted to talk about that really quickly. Moving forward, the Yaz Queen of the week. Let's spotlight this week Supergirl, episode 2, weekly wardrobe spotlight. Because this show does wardrobe so well, we need to just take a hot second and look at it, see what's happening. And my nominee for the best wardrobe this week is the Supercore combo. They complemented each other so well. They looked like they were the yin to the yang of each other. So this week we had Lena with a black and white top. It was like a vine pattern top, and it had these really cool soft pink accents. And then you had Kara, librarian chic, in a soft pink librarian top with high-waisted pink pants combo. At first I thought it was too much pink, but then when I got a closer look and I saw that Lena had these little specks of pink, I just thought, well, first of all, how appropriate is that for Lena? She had such great language this week. She had great dialogue. There was a line where she said that she would never choose a side. And I think her clothes really spoke to that. Her clothes are both white and black. So she's somewhere in the gray. She's somewhere in between. And yet there's pink roses, and it complements Kara. And I think the clothing on the show has always really spoken. It's always really told its own story. And this department just does a phenomenal job. There was also a line in reference to pink clothing where Mercy Graves is talking about how Lena would be belittled by her brother Lex. Mercy Graves again alluding to Lex, because I think absolutely she is is going to be the connection to Lex, bringing Lex into this world. She's going to take a big part in that. But she talks about how Lex always belittled Lena's intelligence by calling her inventions cute and pink. And it was just such a huge moment where you have, like, Kara standing behind her, being both cute and pink, but also powerful. And I really loved that line. I feel like the wardrobe put Kara in all pink this episode just for that moment in this episode, which happened in the last act. So we got that. This was great wardrobe choices. I will see if I can put this on the cast so you guys can all see it in the links below. But that wins the Academy of Wardrobe Award this week. I give it Yaz Queen. I give it 3 queens. Okay, so moving on, I'm going to start off, like I said, we're starting off hot tonight. I'm going to be starting off with my analysis, starting with the women of the hour, the reason why we convene Sundays, the Supercorp. I think this was, episode 2 was really our first helping of Supercorp this season. So I'm going to start with the superficial. So we learned that in the Kara-Lena friendship, that Kara has really had an influence on Lena. She's finally gotten her to eat Big Valley burgers, which, I mean, it was about time, right? And we also learned that Kara, she just dives right in. She's Supergirl. She's got that super appetite. And Lena, she's more of a bun taker offer, so it's baby steps. That was one of the highlights. I really enjoyed that lunch scene. It did 2 things. We got to see them being normal, being pedestrian, and we also got to learn a little bit about Lena Luthor's history, her continuous intriguing family history. And apparently, back in the day, Mercy Graves was something of an older sister to her. An older sister who could come back from time to time and kick her ass, but also impressionable and maybe somebody Lena wanted to be like. And I really, really liked learning about this about Lena, because just anytime you have the villain cycling back into Lena, it creates more dynamic character, dynamic plot line. It makes me invest in Mercy Graves more. I took another look at Mercy Graves and I saw somebody with more depth, more so than I may have seen with Rhea last 2 seasons ago. So that was a really huge scene for us. I also really enjoyed that Lena in this episode got to be the protector of Kara for once, which was really refreshing. We have seen Kara as Supergirl save Lena's life more times than I can count on my fingers or toes, but I'll give it a go just for you people. So poison, helicopters, planes, balconies, kryptonite explosions, stray bullets, chunks of buildings, assassination attempts. Those were just some off the top of my head. It was just downright refreshing to see these roles be reversed, because of course, if Lena doesn't know Kara's Supergirl, of course Lena would protect Kara. You know, like, it just seemed like the most obvious thing. And there was some really great language again. We had Lena telling Kara, the safest place you can be right now is with me. I've got you okay. And Kara just kind of being forced to live with that. And of course, Lena, she's capable, and we got to see her agency in the way she solves problems, which isn't super, but it's also very super. So that was really wonderful. One of the things that I thought was really funny was them running down the hallways and Kara doing the best she can to divert the stray bullets and protect Lena from all the ways she could be murdered, just from the stairs to the staircase, you know, the top of the staircase. It felt very Lois and Clark to me. Almost like, I wish I'd seen more of this. I wish I'd seen more of pedestrian Kara as a superhuman being in hiding, protecting Lena from herself. Good, well-intended Lena. I want to go straight to the fight scene, because I thought that this Supercorp fight scene was really interesting. First of all, Lena has kept her mother's Lex suit, and she's kept it because she realizes that it's a threat to society. And so she apparently has it for safekeeping, but it's out, and she tinkers on it from time to time. She makes changes to it. I'm wondering in my mind why Lena's fixing up the suit. You know, why not keep it contained and locked up from anyone ever touching it if it is such a deadly piece of weaponry? But also, so like I was wondering what she had been planning to do with it. I also thought Lena's building is kind of hilarious. It's kind of a fun house. Just the idea that she's got to be rightfully paranoid that she's hooked up the entire system. So if she wanted to, she could tune into your elevator ride on the way to work. And the way the doors just kind of close on themselves and behind themselves, that seems really funny. And I was enjoying the run through of AlCorp. I feel like Eve Tessmercher, I don't know how to say her, Tessmacher. She looks like she is somebody who could have been in Bomb Girls. She has this like 1940s aesthetic, and she has a way of just being like, I was a bunny when I was in a theme park. It just felt very like Bomb Girls to me. Her hair looks like 1940s Bomb Girls. Bomb Girls was another show that was on Canadian TV. But yeah, so she looks like she came out of that world, and she's now working as an assistant for Lena Luthor. I feel like she's a red herring. I want to say Eve, they gave her so much more agency last season with giving her a first and last name and some ability to be useful working at AlCorp, and imagine she also got a huge raise. But I felt like, it feels like Eve just knows too much about the security and how it works at AlCorp for it to be just something to laugh off at, like a one-line laugh off. And 2 seasons ago, in season 2, we discovered that Lillian Luthor was absolutely still involved with Alcorp and had been watching Lena. So I feel like my thought is that Eve is a red herring. She's going to turn on Lena at some point, or this is just my thoughts, my speculation on her. This character to me exists to maybe give color to the world of Alcorp, but also she's too smart for her own good. And I felt like one of the themes in this episode was the hairpin is mightier than the doors, because you would imagine that Lena would pay top dollar to keep her secrets, yet a simple hairpin plugged into the side panel is your all-access key to Alcorp, and it seemed just too convenient that Eve knew how to do this exact thing. I feel that both Lena and the Daxamite army got their doors made from the same place, because in season 2, or 2 seasons ago, Lena hairpin triggered the Daxamite doors with the edge of her princess crown from her shotgun wedding to Manel, which may or may not have ended with the procreation of a hair baby. We're still waiting on that. But it just makes me wonder if Lena taught Eve the hairpin door trigger trick, or if Eve Googled that on her own. Either way, I feel like this was just way too convenient. The writers have to start coming up with other ways to get around the obstacles besides a lady pulling her hairpin apart and picking a high security door apart. It kills the world for me. Lena is far too intelligent and detailed to just like let this slide, to let her security slide. Anyways, so in other things that I thought were quite fantastic in this episode were the final scene where Lena takes on Mercy Graves, and you have Kara standing behind her and she's protecting her, and Lena, she dons the Lex suit arm. I felt like that was such foreshadowing. And I also feel like that could be the vision of Christmas to come. I feel like Kara currently is kind of a man down. She no longer has, as Supergirl, the Martian Manhunter to back her up, and Mon-El, and Brainy is more of a tech guy, and I feel you do have the DEO, but there is a lot of dissent within the DEO, and I feel like the DEO is going under its own identity crisis with Alex. I feel like I could totally go for a Luthor and a Super teaming up a la season 2, but in like live action suits. How wonderful would it be to see Lena Luthor suited and booted, and when the city is under duress, instead of calling the Guardian, call Miss Luthor in the Lex suit. And what a cool way to redeem the Luthor name than to have Lena, going in and fighting side by side next to Supergirl. I feel like the notion, a lot has been set towards making Lena into a villain, but I think that this episode really cemented for me when Lena specifically says she's never going to pick a side. I believe her. I don't think she's ever going to be truly evil or truly good. I think she's going to live in the gray forever, and I actually think like that's a really cool way to build this character. She might pick a side, but she also might be a double agent. She doesn't like Lex all that much, and she's not really truly a villain. She said it time and time again. It would destroy her character's compass, the moral compass that was laid in when we first met this character. I don't know how much I would believe her as a villain without the capacity to be brought back from darkness, without the ability to be rehabbed back into the light. So I just was thinking, well, if you have Agent Liberty, you have the Graves brothers and sisters, you have Agent Jensen, and you have Lex Luthor coming to National City, all in the same city at one time, then you do have a lot of bad guys. And I don't know that you're going to be adding Lena Luthor to that. She might be a double agent. I definitely think that could be a thing. That could come into play. She's been fixing that relationship with Lillian. You could see her playing both sides. But I don't think that she would, without knowing that Kara is, like, as she stands now, I don't think she would betray her own internal compass of what is right and wrong. It's just been challenged too many times. But I definitely would love to see that Lena getting her own mech suit and going out and fighting some crime. She definitely can fight. Watching her fight Mercy Graves was such a huge highlight for me. I was like, two badass bitches with mech arms on, throwing punches and willing and dealing, and Kara standing behind Lena, knowing she could stop this any moment, but not having that debate when to jump into the fight. It's a matter of when, not whether to, for Kara. So that was really a delightful moment, and it just gave Lena Luthor so much agency, and I feel like it's been missing, because we've seen this damsel in distress be played over and over and over again, and it's a trope that I enjoy from time to time. It's funny, or like watching Kara swoop in and doing like bridal catches, but at the same time it was great seeing a reverse of that role. Other great Supercorp moments, just a lot of the dialogue between the two characters was refreshing. I felt like it mended. We were really given a moment in this episode when Supergirl, or Kara, finally gets a moment to change into Supergirl and whoosh in and save Lena in the nick of time. I really thought the language where she got to say this great line, "The Luthors don't deserve Lena," in that moment you got something of a repaired relationship between Supergirl and Lena, and that had been fractured. So maybe we are seeing Supergirl and Lena's relationship be mended. And if it were mended, and if the time comes where, Kara has to finally tell Lena about her identity, I think maybe the relationship will be intact. This is all hopeful thinking, but this season has me hoping in a way that I wasn't hoping so much in season 3. But this was a great episode. So I'm going to now move on to some of the Brainiac and Alex parts of this episode, because I do feel that Alex was tremendous in this episode. It's hard to say. We had so much great Supercorp, but Alex was actually just really great. There were some great moments. My first question with Alex Danvers was, when did Alex hire a bunch of douche bros to work at the DEO? The casting did feel a little on the light side, meaning I did not see enough people of color working in the background of the DEO. But one of the things I did like about this episode was showing the dissent and the civil unrest existing in both the workplace at CACO for Kara and at the DEO for Alex. Alex is really her authority is really being challenged. She doesn't realize it yet, but her actively taking Brainiac's side, or maybe making Brainiac her second in command, it has created some dissent within her ranks. And there was a character in this episode, his name was Agent Jansen. We saw him in the first episode getting his face knocked in by Alex, who later goes on to betray Alex and release Mercy and Otis Graves from captivity. I just felt like this was kind of like Agent Jansen was a plot device, and he existed to release Otis and Mercy and go to their side. If anything, I'd be worried for Otis, because I feel like Jansen is slightly more competent than Otis. I feel like Otis Graves has a giant kill me on his forehead because he's just kind of douchey and not the smartest. I liked the Alex Danvers interrogation scene in this episode. That was really strong. Her frustration was, you could see how frustrated she was with the situation, and then the chemistry between her and Brainiac just continued to be one of my favorite elements of the show. I don't miss Win. Every time I see Brainiac, this actor just has really filled this character with a lot of cool quirks and inflections and comedy, dry humor. And the actress Kyler Lee does such great dry humor. She has great comedic timing with him that it's been really a lot of fun to see this relationship, this tentative relationship, continue to grow. In this episode, Brainiac is the catalyst for 2 points of conflict. Brainiac offers to go on a pizza run to his local pizza shop where he likes to order olives and apples. Hashtag metaphor for Supercorp. And his image inducer fails him. And his local pizza guy, Massimo, quickly turns on him as his gang of pizza delivery boys amasses and threatens to jump Brainiac because he is an alien. Alex has a Danvers sister moment with Brainiac, which is weird, but Alex has the ability to just say the right thing in the moment to Brainiac. If anyone is giving you trouble, send them my way. And then Brainiac says something to the effect, all aliens deserve an Alex Danvers. It was just one of those moments that I feel cements this relationship as my new favorite buddy comedy, or bro TP. I just never expected to like Brainiac as much as I do. And I have to say that the actor playing Brainiac does just a fabulous job of humanizing this character and being omnipotent at the same time. He just plays a dichotomy of emotions, and he's innocent, and Alex Danvers continues to be the emotional weight of this show. And it was fun. It was fabulous getting to see her interact with this character, or a character other than her sister, kind of on the same level, and I really enjoyed these scenes. Now, I would like to talk about Miss Nicole Maines, the newest actress / addition to the cast besides Brainiac in season 4, who has been killing it. I love Nicole Maines. I love this actress. I love Nia Null. On the show, she plays Nia Null, the young protege at Catco, who was brought on as kind of like and sold to us as a young version of Kara. So Nia Null had about 2 or 3 scenes this episode that were just profound. One of the big scenes for Nicole Maines in this episode was her character Nia Null coming out as trans to James Olsen. Nia Null goes to her boss James Olsen, and she wants him to address the rising anti-alien sentiment. But James is reluctant to address the growing anti-alien sentiment in a editorial for Catco. He states he doesn't believe Catco should present itself as being a biased publication, though you could make the argument that that's the reason why editorials exist. They're opinion pieces, so you can be biased. And anyways, at first I was a little disappointed in James's reaction, but then I had to remind myself that the essence of any scene is conflict. Without conflict, you just have narrative. You don't have a scene. The writers wanted the audience to know that Naya relates to the anti-alien sentiment because there's something in her that can relate to being other. This basically forces Naya to continue to pursue her point of view, which is that people should be tolerant of other people and that she can relate to being other and that hate is wrong. And so we see this in Naya. Now, what I was concerned about was that when they casted a trans actress, I was really worried that they were going to turn her story into a giant PSA, which, if I'm being honest, they've done that a lot with James. They did it last year where they had a clunky PSA episode that was anti-gun, and I was hoping that we would avoid the awkward scene. And so when I saw the James and Nia scene, I was prepared to kind of be like, oh. James basically tells Nia that he isn't going to create this editorial, and it gives Nia something to fight for. It makes her have to work to try and validate her point of view and why her point of view is important and something worth fighting for. So I think this was the first gemstone we got that's going to lead towards Nia Null's eventual evolution into Dream Girl. And I thought we had the better scene, which was less preachy, in the scene between Nia Null and Brainiac. That brings me back to Brainiac. So Brainiac goes to get pizzas, and he's nearly jumped. And Nia Null happens to be in the same pizza shop at the same time. What are the odds? I don't know. It's a small city, this national city. But what happens is Nia Null witnesses the prejudice against Brainiac. She witnesses this hate crime happening, and she puts herself between Brainiac and the goons who are going to jump him. And this was a really amazing scene because with just the action of putting herself between the bad guys and Brainiac, you can see the hero starting to form already. And Brainiac and her have a great first encounter where they see eye to eye. And Brainiac, I mean, this was a moment that had my heart swinning a little. I don't know if I'm calling it hashtag Braininol or Brainia. But after watching the scene, I 100% ship the idea of Brainiac and Nia Null. I was actually wondering last week who, if they would ever give her a love interest, who might that be on the show? And then as soon as I saw Brainiac and Nia Null's interaction, I was like, oh my god, they're the cutest thing I've seen in forever. And I would love to see this become a couple on the show. They would totally be each other's opposites, yet complement each other in every sense of the word. But basically, Nia Null goes on ahead, sticks up for Brainiac, sticks her neck out in the face of injustice, and Brainiac leaves that pizza shop with like 11 pizzas, and he tells her, hey, I would like to meet you again. And she is absolutely open to the idea. So I really like the way that the world of the DEO and Brainiac met up with Nia Null, and I love the way that this is starting to come together. Nicole Main's Nia Null is the right hero that we need to be seeing on our screens right now. She's the face of the trans movement / people. She humanizes and soothes people's fears who are still struggling to accept the notion of others. What makes her so amazing is that she's an active character. I absolutely think the pizza scene is stronger than the Nia Null and James scene. I think she recognizes that what her fight is his fight, and I really, really, really loved seeing that. I also think that making Nia Null's point of view is more important now than ever before, because recently what's happening in our world, in the New York Times, there was an article saying that the Trump administration is, on the verge of redefining gender and essentially redefining gender in a way that is non-inclusive to our transgender brothers and sisters. And I think it's just so wrong, and if ever we needed that hero, Nicole Main's Nia Null is in our eyes on our screen right now, and I just have so much appreciation for this actress. I also thought that in this moment that season 4 of Supergirl seems to have really hit the nail on the head with its additional casting. I think Brainy was a wise choice to have on the show, and I think he was absolutely essential to the cast. I love his interactions with Alex. I love his interactions with Kara. I love his interactions with Nia. He just complements every single character on the show so well. And Nia Null, I didn't know I wanted her as a superhero until I saw her show up on my screen and defend Brainiac, and I was like, yes, I am rooting on this woman. I cannot wait to see where she goes, and I love her storyline. It's just getting better and better. So season 4 continues to enthrall me. Now I'm going to move on a little bit, okay? I'm going to move on to James Olsen. Now, I feel like it is so easy for me to take a digs at James Olsen. Earlier this week, I found myself tweeting at James Olsen, rage tweeting, and I kind of felt bad afterwards because it's really easy to take pot shots at this character who seemingly can't defend himself, and it's not his fault that he is the way he is. So I want to talk about James. I want to speak to this character. But one of the things I want to talk about today is why it's not working. I want to get into that. I want to talk about why it's not working and how it can work. Okay? So now, I feel this season, so far, in the 2 episode sampling that I've seen, that James Olsen is kind of stuck in this weird no man's land of forwarding all plots but having no storyline of his own. Last night, his reluctance to take on the growing social unrest was reduced, like where his storyline ended last night. He was reduced to yelling at the non-union extras at Catco, at McKinsey for being an asshole. And I felt like this is such an injustice to the character of Jimmy Olsen or James Olsen, who's been in the Superman mythos for as long as any character. And so I thought, well, I feel like every season the show makes an attempt to retool this character. They try to salvage it. They try to make him Guardian. They try to make him the CEO Catco. And nothing seems to stick with this guy. This character just seems horribly shallow. And that is something that is a fundamental problem in the writing that has developed, and it's never righted itself. So I think that one of the things I see every time I watch a James-centric episode is that I always feel like the episode feels detached from the progress of the main show. Like, an example would be a James Olsen-driven centric episode feels kind of like a PSA announcement with a little James backstory to it. Kind of like an allegory to enhance this PSA announcements, a la gun control last season. So I'm suggesting that the show does a little open heart surgery on James Olsen. Let's talk about how we can repair some of these valves here, okay? So these are 5 ways I think you can make James Olsen a better character. And if I were a writer on this staff, I'd be pitching away. I'd be pitching the shit out of these ideas. So here's my number 1, okay? I'm gonna just go through them really quick. Number 1, make James Olsen an asshole. Make him a jackass. So now, I'm not talking about like an asshole where you can't stand to see him on set. I'm talking about Han Solo. Han Solo in the Star Wars world is a sarcastic, lovable jackass. He has got a heart of gold, but he is sarcastic as fuck. I think there is a real hole for that. In this super show, this super world, there's an empty hole that needs to be filled, and I think you could tuck James Olsen right in there. If you made him just slightly sarcastic or slightly an asshole, just give him that. That leads me to number 2. Give James Olsen a flaw. Now, this is something my writing instructor would tell me. I don't see it. What is James Olsen's deep-seated man pain? Batman saw his parents killed before his eyes. Supergirl's planet blew up. Wynn's father was a supervillain. Lena Luthor is a Luthor. I don't understand what this character's flaw is. Now, when I speak to flaws, I'm talking about that thing that deep-seated wound that injured him early in life. The reason for why he is the way he is. If I can't identify the flaw, then I feel like there's nothing about him that is relatable as a viewer. And so I'm saying establishing a flaw is character development 101, and it is really lacking in this character. I feel like when you watch James Olsen on screen, he's like tooth-achingly kind. He's too much of a nice guy. He's so much of a nice guy, he's a pushover. He's so much of a nice guy that no nice people can identify to his niceness because it's on its own level in itself. Alright. Give him an enemy. Now, here's an idea, okay? Just gonna shit one out for you. How about his enemy? What if his enemy was a right-wing conservative newspaper, one that specifically was printing articles in contest with Catco. Give Catco an enemy. Give James an enemy. It doesn't have to be a physical enemy. It can be a larger existential problem. But that would do wonders for his character development. Okay, here's another one. Stop forcing romances while this character remains undefined. So, like, I feel like the solution for season 3 and 2 and 1 for the flatlining of James Olsen was to give him a love interest. Now, that is really, really unfair because Kara is arguably the most defined character on the show. So if you have someone who is a blank canvas and then you have Kara, then you're not going to have a balanced relationship, really, will you? This character doesn't even know what his own favorite color is. He doesn't even know what bothers him or ticks him or makes him pissed. There's so little we know about what defines this character, the moral centering of this character, that to put a more developed character in contingent with him is just doing an injustice. You need to pull back, strip back, and get back to basics. The ABCs of defining. Okay, here's another one. Let's re-solidify his role as a sidekick. James Olsen in the comics is a nerdy fanboy. Okay? He is the Peter Parker without the Spider-Man. He takes pictures of Spider-Man. James Olsen takes pictures of Superman. James Olsen existed to help Superman transition between being Super and being Clark. He was the person who knew Superman's identity and helped keep it secret in the workplace. Especially with Lois Lane, you know, this reporter who was relentless breathing down Clark's neck. James Olsen was the secret keeper. Now, this James Olsen in no way resembles his original archetype. I can respect getting away from the original and wanting to reinvent the character, but I feel like when you get away from the original and you don't do anything to reinvent the character, then why not try the opposite? Why not go back to basics? Why not make him a sidekick again? Because I feel like what's happening is if you were to watch an episode of Supergirl and if you were to have somebody who's never seen the show watch Supergirl and if you were to ask that person who every character was on the show, you know, just without seeing the names or the subtitles below or the captions, you could place who Supergirl was. You could probably place that. You could probably just see through the interaction that Alex Danvers is clearly a secret agent / knows Supergirl. You could understand who Brainiac is. You would understand who Lena was. But frankly, if you put James Olsen on the screen, I'm not sure you would understand that it would be conveyed to the audience that he was James Olsen of the comic book. So I think that this has to do with just how this character was put together. You know, he doesn't resemble the original archetype, which is nerdy photographer. He's this like model guy who weightlifts, and even that is very undefined. So get back to basics, make him a sidekick again. Those are 5 ways to improve the character. Character surgery, open heart, boom, surgery. Anyway, so those are my suggestions. I just wanted to speak to that. I'm tired of beating on this character verbally. I just want things to get better for him. And it feels like the show isn't going to quit on this character anytime soon. I mean, it might break up Lames, but I don't think that this character is going anywhere. So, literally, it's like stuck in the mud. Alright, moving on. Villains of the week, okay? Now, we got a pretty clear view of Agent Liberty this week. And what I really, really liked was the way that the show has in its C storyline Jean investigating the missing alien Fiona. And I love the way that his investigation leads back into the main plot. Not in a James Olsen kind of way. It's actually very important to the main plot. Jean, despite not being involved in Catco or the DEO anymore, still feels like a very active character on the show, with a lot of things that are happening that I frankly find very intriguing. So I felt like we got to hear the first of what I imagine is many encounters with Agent Liberty. Agent Liberty looks like the villain from Legends of Korra Season 1, Amon. Now, fans of Legends of Korra might feel a sense of deja vu in this season's plotline, because it does closely, very, very closely resemble Korra's Force season, right down to the mask and the populist rhetoric, which is not a bad thing. Korra Season 1 was excellent, and frankly, I am so happy to be getting the live-action version of this, with the Korrasami included. Which leads me to think that we might end up at Korrasami, just because they were just like, fuck it, let's do Korra. You guys are right. Korra is like Korra. Anyway, so I don't mind his costuming. Every time I see it, I think of Amon. It puts me back into Legends of Korra Season 1, and they did a lot of great things there. Otis and Mercy Graves, okay? Now, I feel like Otis is pretty much fodder. He hasn't been killed yet, but I would be a little bit wary, because it feels like Agent Jensen is slightly more capable than Otis in the intellect department. So I wouldn't be surprised if Otis was killed and then Agent Jensen took over his role as Goonie number 2 to his sister, Mercy Graves. I think that Agent Jensen is going to be used more and more. We'll see more of him becoming a populist and following Amon, and he might stay on as a villain. I feel like it seemed really kind of like a clueless mistake, or just seemed really out of character for Alex, who's such a tremendous DEO agent, to put Mercy Graves in a cell next to her brother so they could both talk and hear each other, planning an obvious escape. It also felt like very unlike Alex to not pick up on the growing dissent within the DEO. Like, it didn't feel, to me, it felt like too convenient that this guy, Agent Jensen, was like plotting beneath her nose without her getting cued to it any earlier. So that just felt too convenient. It didn't feel realistic. Alex Danvers is way more aware of who she works with at / any critical situation of danger. I felt like it was too easy to allow Agent Jensen to stray from the DEO. Okay, so I feel like I thought this episode was overall really good. There was zero lames, tons of Supercorp. Nia Nal was my star of the episode, surprising star of the episode, followed closely by Brainiac. Agent Danvers was phenomenal. She had all the great lines. There was just so much here to love. It was hard not to root for Supergirl again. Felt like we got back to Kara Season 1. She had some beautiful language, Kara, when she was interrupting the protesters by hurling like an American flag between the two of them. She had great monologues. She was the vision of hope, and I was really excited for her. It just does feel like so much has been stripped back, and there's a lot working for the show now. My predictions, okay? I got some wild predictions. Alright, prediction number 1. Lillian Luthor dies, saving Lena from Lex. Okay. I think that Lillian Luthor will die this season, and this is just a guesstimation. This has nothing to do with anything that was printed. Brenda Strong was recently cast as a main cast member for the Netflix show 13 Reasons Why. I think it would be compelling television to show a redeemed Lillian Luthor saving her daughter, and I don't know how much time or scheduling Brenda Strong has to come back and shoot Supergirl Season 5. So you might see the end of Lillian Luthor. It'd be compelling, it'd be sad. Lena doesn't deal well with loss. There's my Season 4 death prediction. All right, next prediction. A lot of people said that they thought that Lena was going to go evil season 4. I think Lena said perfectly clear that she would never be stupid enough to pick a side. Lena's going to live in the gray from now until forever, which means that Lena could be absolutely a double agent. I think we are going to see Alina Kara team up against Lex, Mercy Graves, and Agent Liberty. That's a lot of heavy bad guys to have in the world versus Kara. And I think Lena is going to be that person to step up with that Lex suit and have a mano-a-mano battle against her brother. That's where I see it going. I still feel that Eve is a red herring. She's too smart for her own good. I feel like she was planted in Alcorp. She's working for the Luthor family, and she knows way too much about triggering doors with hairpins. All of that screams red tape. Okay, the new president. I don't think he's Trump. I think the new president for season 4 is going to pardon Lex Luthor, paving the way for President Luthor. I think that's how Lex Luthor gets out of jail. And I think Lex Luthor sent himself to jail, as did Lillian Luthor. I think this is all a part of a larger plot. I think Lex Luthor, again, is a puppet master, and he's going to come out of jail mid-season and raise hell. We're going to be really fucked. I'm going to give this episode on a scale of 1 through 10, I'm giving this episode a 7. So on a scale of 1 through 10, this episode gets a 7. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to What About That? It's been really lovely podcasting. If you liked hearing us here, we're also doing a podcast of Charm, the Reboot, episode 2. Adair is going to be doing Legends of Tomorrow reaction videos. Next week, Adair will be back. Wish her luck, guys. She's been auditioning her butt off for the Circus Stage The Late Show. And if you want to join me, if you want to talk to any of us, either of us, we are on Twitter, we're on Facebook.
Thanks for listening. And if you want to take us on the go, we are now available on Podbeam, Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. And if you want to slide on over to Twitter, make sure you find us at whatabout_dat. Hope to see you soon.